It looks like Blizzard decided to postpone the big changes until day 3. And when I say big changes, I mean big. But anyway, I want you to know that in this video, I'm not going to go down the patch notes and read everything off one by one. I'm going to talk about what I think is the most important and how it's going to shake up the current class hierarchy. Specifically, I'll cover what specs changed, the changes that affected them the most, and finally, talk briefly about the changes to glyphs. So, Barb was probably the class that got hit the hardest with the nerf cannon. Specifically, the Whirlwind Barb was absolutely gutted. The abilities didn't get changed themselves, but the aspects that made the build really good, especially in the endgame, saw extreme nerfs. To highlight 3 of the most important, first, Bold Chieftain's aspect saw substantial nerfs to cooldown reduction and maximum cooldown reduction. Aspect of the Dire Whirlwind saw huge nerfs in their increased and maximum crit strike chance. And finally, the unique item Gores got completely gutted, having its explosion damage reduced from a whopping 50 to 70% increased damage to 16 to 26%. These changes are huge, but I'm hopeful that Whirlwind Barb will clap back and the theory crafters for that class will find some aspects that fill the holes and allow the spec to still be competitive. Next up, the Druid saw changes to 2 of their builds. The Pulverized Druid saw some nerfs to the Pulverized skill, nerfs to their class boons Obsidian Slam and Calm Before the Storm, and finally, they also had their legendary aspects Shockwave and Crash Stone reduced in damage. But the Lightning variation of Druid saw some much needed buffs. The skill Lightning Storm saw an 8% damage buff, and Lightning Dancer's aspect had a small flat damage increase. Now, this isn't going to be enough to make the Storm build competitive in my opinion, but it's a good sign. Moving on, Necromancer was actually the king of these changes, seeing mostly buffs in the form of skills and minions. They had so many changes in fact that I don't want to take up your time by going through the specifics one by one, but just know that Blood Necro builds and Summoner Necro builds saw some pretty nice buffs, while Bone Spear Necro saw a decent nerf to their passive skill node, Grim Harvest. If you want to see the specific changes to the skills, passives, and class specialization, pull up the patch notes in the description below. I'm not a huge fan of finding out Blizzard made a patch and making a video to just go through the list one by one and covering the specific adjustments. I'm more interested in talking about how these changes affect some of the most popular class builds. Moving on, Rogue saw some changes as well. And can you guess to what spec? Well, you're right. The Twisting Blades Rogue build, which I just made a video about yesterday, saw some pretty sizable nerfs. The most important change that you should know about is the cooldown reduction on Twisting Blades was nerfed both in per enemy hit and maximum CDR. Concussive also got a noticeable nerf, which is used in most variations of Twisting Blades. But Rogue did see some small buffs to Rapid Fire and Caltraps, which to me signifies that Blizzard wants me to hop in the lab and start theory crafting and testing out some more ranged Rogue builds. For the final class, Sorc saw the least changes from these patch notes, and the changes aren't as massive as most of the other classes saw. But to mention the 2 biggest changes, Shimmering Teleport got a nerf to damage reduction duration, which is going to make you feel a little bit less safe playing melee Sorc, and Aspect of Control's bonus damage reduction was nerfed by 5%. So that's all the changes to the classes. Again, please check out the actual balance changes to see more of the specific changes, but now I want to mention some adjustments to the Paragon board, which are a pretty big deal. So all glyphs got a flat 34% scaling reduction, and some glyphs saw even larger nerfs. To my knowledge, this means that as you level up glyphs, their scaling based on their level is now 34% less than what it was previously. This is actually going to be a pretty big deal and a pretty big net loss when we get deeper into the endgame. Anyway, there you have it, short and sweet. That's what patch notes should be. Hopefully you enjoyed my coverage of the patch notes, and for the last time, check them out for yourself. Knowing what changed specifically and understanding the ramifications is going to make you a better Diablo 4 player overall. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more videos about news, builds, tips and tricks, and highlights, then hit that sub button. Anyway, my name has been Valued, and I'll see you in the next one.